Hey Don.
Hey Julian, how are you
So
tonight?
we talked last Tuesday that about a whole lot of current event sort of information, and that was exciting. But I was much more excited before I got to that show, and I knew that I found out that that's what we were going to talk about. I had been going through a couple nights, very right before it, um, that I had dreams that went the whole night, like all night. Like I
Oh, nice.
remember, because I got a baby, I sometimes feed it milk on the way, along the way. Every time that I'd be waking up, oh, it's still part of that dream about vibrations, and wanted to talk about vibrations.
Mhm.
So, um, I've just been like tickled because I know that this is kind of coming true, and I'm able to help with everybody's insight on vibrations and sort of help look at them a little bit differently and in a way that can be more harnessed. I think a lot of people want to talk about law of creation and creating their reality. Well, this is kind of like along those lines where people can start to dig a little bit deeper into what vibrations are, so you can be a bit more of a harnesser, less of a witnesser.
Right, and we were talking and vibration. I mean, let's face it, everything is vibration,
Right.
and I think even people, one of the things that people kind of lose sight of is that, and they tend to still look at people like Dick Cheney and maybe ISIS or other things that are happening in the world and look at them as evil or sinister or what have you, as opposed to a vibration that is manifesting through these groups or individuals.
Yeah, and well, what can you say? We're looking
Yeah,
at a better world if we don't do that.
exactly.
So
So that's that. So as opposed to discussing, some of the other like ways to deal with those situations
yeah,
by getting a better understanding of vibration is how we can individually move beyond some
mhm,
of those limits and some of those blockages that are
yeah,
keeping us from seeing it in a different way.
right. It could be,
Hmm.
and even if you just want to circumvent for a while, that this will
Hmm.
help you.
Audio is going super slow,
Is it?
Crystal says.
I don't even know what that means. I don't if that's
Su
if anybody else is having that problem with the audio kind of being weird. Please say something in the chat room. If it's out of sync, I think we can work with that. Oh, my camera is running at the wrong frame rate at the moment. So I don't know what it has something to do with my lighting. It has to change my lighting to be more picture perfect, and it's doing a whole bunch of settings and it's slowing down the machine overall.
Okay.
But we can pass.
Rusty says the audio is fine with him.
All right, guys.
Okay, so let's go.
So everybody's heard of good vibrations.
Oh yeah, we should have had the music playing.
Well, yeah, I know. Is that copyrighted? It probably is.
Yeah, yeah,
It
it
probably
is
wouldn't let me.
copyrighted.
Yeah.
Yes.
um,
You don't have the money for that?
well, we can get somebody who does like their version of their take on it,
Right.
right? We can get some goofball on off South Beach singing it into a microphone. All right, and then we'll just play that.
There we go.
Okay. Um. All right, we can all pretend that happened. Yay, that was a great intro.
Mhm.
Um. But when you visit the idea of good vibrations versus bad vibrations, where I'm coming from is just not. There's just a spectrum that you prefer not being in of the vibration, and there's a
Hmm.
spectrum that you do prefer to be in the vibration, right?
Yes.
So
It's a match or it's not a match
it's a match or
for
it's not a
you.
match.
Yes.
And relative to the, hold on a minute, Crystal's bringing me something I need to give attention to.
A baby? The
No,
diaper needs to be,
she's saying the feed is not up.
the feed is not up.
All right, everybody. So, speaking of vibrations, Crystal's computer's monitoring this. Her machine's not running very quickly, and so the video feed
Hmm.
is coming out really 50% speed, very slow. And she's like, "Oh, something wrong with the feed." As she's able to check it out, and if I check it out, then I hear two copies over the mic, or everybody else hears the other
Hmm.
video that I'm watching, as monitoring the feed. Doesn't seem to be a way to get around that. But
Okay.
um, back on the subject, the place in which we're observing vibrations of a low end and a high end is in a preferable, place in the vibration, and a less preferable place in the vibration. And I can just call an experience a vibration the way that I'm using it here.
Hmm.
But the decision is in the direction of movement, and that's why you get sort of like this North Pole, South Pole, right?
Hmm.
Like when you look at North Pole, South Pole, basically assume that the vibration is moving along that, like along that line, along that plane.
Right.
So, South Pole is basically where it started, and North Pole is where it finishes. So when you look at a wavelength, you're looking at it, and it finishes, that's the North Pole, whatever it becomes,
Okay.
right? Now, when waves are traveling, most waves that are traveling, the wave is in a process of expanding, never shrinking,
Hmm.
right? Just like when you throw a rock into a pond, the waves are getting bigger, they're not getting smaller, right?
Right.
In the ripples. So all waves are expanding. We're in an expanding universe, a universe that is expansion. Talk about the Big Bang, everything's expanding. Yeah, okay, it's just
Hmm.
another way of exploring it. We're an expansion universe. We're not in a, whatever the opposite of expanding is, contracting universe.
Declining, contracting. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Now, in some cases, just to be clear, there are universes that are basically contracting and expanding, and you get the donut effect. It doesn't really matter. Just to be clear about the universe thing, because someone might ask me later, there is no expanding universe and contracting universe. It's kind of like where you are in the manifestational ring, like a toroidal field. We'll just call it the donut.
Hmm.
We'll refer to the toroidal field as the donut type because it kind of applies in a lot of ways. So look at it in the way to help look at like these diagrams that sometimes scientists have of like the magnetic field of the Earth.
Right.
And it gets sort of complex. It looks like these two. It looks like the flesh on an apple around a core of an apple kind of thing. It just looks like these bubbles going out of it, and it comes back in. The South Pole goes out the north, it goes in the south. Well, essentially all vibrations are doing that. So vibrations is actually a way of describing movement. So when the vibration is coming out, we'll say the top of the apple in the shape, it gets a great deal of it, depending on what kind of vibration it is, will get pulled back. So gravitationally pull back in, and you'll get caught in like the pull of the Earth. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that vibration goes out, but because the Earth is a certain gravitational mass, it draws that vibration back around, and then it shrinks. So it expands for a time. Oh, I made it this far off the planet, and then it starts shrinking very slowly, then very quickly. So it shrinks. And just as amazing it was that it basically expanded in the first place, like wow, I'm going straight off the planet, at 90 degrees. Just as it is exciting for it to do that, it slows down until it's like orbiting for a really long time without really sort of like coming back towards the planet. That's that long stretch. And just as it comes in, the South Pole comes in really fast. That's where we are in the world. That's where we are on the vibration. It's been like, launched this great thing that's going on, and it's all about to wrap up and go right up the ass of the apple right there. But that's the thing. If you want like everything to be wonderful, you got to choose what angle you're coming back in through. So you don't have to have everything perfect. You say, I just want to be able to create everything I want to do. I want to know myself as God so that I can manifest as I please. You know, you basically decide what's going to be there, and that's the angle that you come in, because as you move through time and space, it is a product of your vibration. That's how you move around. You know, you talk about, you know, in Star Trek terms, if you want to warp to somewhere, and they use a warp, they polarize the whole ship's shields, or the warp field. They polarize that field, and they make that the vibration of a destination in front of them. And all they're doing is saying, you know, 7 million light years a second, that's my speed. So I'm focused. I can focus in on such a small target as 7 million, you know, light years away, and you polarize the shield to the vibration of what that is in subspace, and you're pulled there like a wormhole. That's really how warping works. We're warping. We have warp drive built within our DNA as beings produced of light, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at light and you say, well, you can't go faster than the speed of light, sorry, you can, but you don't measure it. You don't have anything to measure it by. Not even speed of light can measure it, because it's in another dimensional way of experiencing distance and space. So you can go faster, but you have to be a little bit less distance and space. You need to be a bit more of a space cadet, like me and Don, right? Or at least, you know, like some people like to identify with it.
Yeah.
Space case. Okay. Anyway. I gotta stop teasing us. It would be better if we're teasing the audience. I don't like teasing myself so much. Okay.
There we go.
Going that sort of like warp pace means that we need to be basically above the fabric of the physical. What we observe with our eyes, we can only see things in the speed of light. Things are speed of light, and that's it. Our eyes are not able to see above things that are speed of light. And you know what? There's infinite number of things faster than the speed of light, just like light. The difference is, it's not the light that you observe. So people are able to, with instruments, they can observe a very large range, right? They can see lots of spectrums that we can't see. They've measured them, you know, with devices and stuff.
Right.
So they know there's more, and of course there is more, because that gets into when you get to the ends of of what you can measure and what you can observe as a waveform, right? Because, you know, the five senses are observing everything through some sort of vibration, so it's a waveform. So when they get to the ends of like what the best machines can use to measure that, you know, on the low end, like it moves so slow we can't even detect it. It's got like one oscillation a year, and we don't have instruments that bother to measure longer than that, because they start to break down and we're not sure if they're working. And then there's the ones that try to calculate as fast a possible thing that can be detected and chunked by a computer to indicate, you know, that it's come up with a certain factor of this is the speed relative to the speed of this, a whole second or a minute. So they can tell you how small the vibration gets. And what they got? Oh, speed of light. That's the fastest one that can be measured.
Right.
Okay? Just because you can't measure beyond speed of light doesn't mean, okay, speed of light isn't happening. It just isn't relevant to this experience. Otherwise, you'd have the senses to observe it, right? So my point here is you raise your vibration above the sustainable human the way it is, okay? So if you were like the everyday human, you know, you had a farm, you paid your tithe, you went to, you know, church, you know, and you lived a nice, you know, peasant life, you're not moving real fast, right? You're not in a big hurry to own your whole creation, right? So what I mean is, like, I'm going to be king tomorrow. I'm not going to be a peasant anymore. You know, the sort of like beggars to riches sort of story, you know, Prince and the Pauper or whatever. It's sort of like, I want to be a
Well, okay,
creator.
but what makes a king a higher vibration than a peasant?
Excitement in
Okay.
freedom and the ability to choose and have a result come into being. It's a higher representational.
So you're saying that the farmer, because they tend to get into a even like a yearly cyclical basis,
A
and
routine
they're
thing.
not a routine thing.
Yep.
That and even though they could be excited about farming
Yeah.
and that lifestyle,
Hmm.
but because they're not exploring, they're not explorers.
They're not
They're they're
explorers.
they're not they're not moving out of that
Hmm.
in and therefore they're vibrating at a lower level.
They're vibrating at a lower level, less complex.
Okay.
Okay. Now, some would say, you know, the royal bloodline has, you know, better DNA for this sort of thing, right? Even,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even if we're even debating the idea that some people have said it's alien DNA, the bloodlines, right?
Right.
You know, isolate the bloodline so that the, you know, the pure, the you know, the ascended alien DNA is in there or something. But really, it does come down to that. There's a vibration where you don't necessarily want to become king. For you, that's not like your
Mm-hmm.
goal in life. You know, I want to be a prince or princess. Hardly anybody's looking for that these days. I don't see anybody, you know, signing up to try to get into those families too often. Um, so that's not, you know, our highest vibration. Our highest vibration is precisely what we love. I mean, it's, you know, and so when we start talking about the love vibration, this is what we're talking about.
So, okay, just as an example, Diana,
Hmm.
when she was a school teacher,
Hmm.
and she her vibration was at a certain level
Hmm.
that would be somebody, even if her position and her family stature, that was a school teacher.
Correct.
And then by increasing her vibration, put her in a position to then become part of the royal family.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, that is one direction of looking at. But then look at the
Right.
next level. You realize she wasn't shooting for that.
Mm-hmm.
She did everything she could to give. She basically set the template for a giving princess. If you don't give as much as
Right.
Diana, you don't look as good. She set the
Mm-hmm.
new bar, right? Olympic, you know, good guy royalty. And so she said it. And why is she dead? This is a
Yeah.
pop quiz, Don. Why did she die?
She was disrupting the flow that they were already in, and they have been in for a long time.
Yeah, she didn't belong.
Mhm. Yeah,
And you know what? Maybe somebody killed her. But either
we don't know.
way,
Whatever.
she had to be a part of it, couldn't didn't she?
Hmm.
She has to have some say.
Yes, she has to participate in that
So
process.
so where did she choose?
Hmm.
She chose, well, the hell with this dimension of this reality. I'm going to go to the one where people like me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave this world with people are saying, you know, I don't really think this, you know, Diana's everything.
Hmm.
You know, these people judging me,
Sure.
and it's basically the sheer amount of criticism. It's like, we don't want to go with you, Diana. We like the old stuff better,
Hmm.
right? And if there's enough people saying that and thinking that and sharing that with their neighbors to convince them that that's going to occur and that's what they want, then they'll get it. And
Yeah.
you know what? It makes us look bad, doesn't it, Don? Because I didn't want her really to die. And you
No.
clearly didn't want her to die either. So you
No.
say, well, what does that mean? Like,
Hmm.
why did she leave ours too? She didn't leave her own family. She left, you know, everybody we know here.
Sure.
So what she was doing in such a place, she couldn't keep doing it the way that she was
Hmm.
without making the whole royal family look bad.
Right.
And so she realized she cared more about leaving her royal family than she did the whole world.
Hmm.
And that's what she did. She let go of her royal experience. Now, that experience in one level was something she wanted to do. She wanted to come in hard, get rich, famous, beautiful, perfect, help as many people as she can, and then I'm out of here. I can't handle it. There's just too much suffering in in the design of this world. And so she gets out. So she basically did like diving into the water,
Right.
going down, and then surfacing right away.
And then bringing us back to the topic, it's all a vibrational journey.
A vibrational journey.
Hmm.
And everybody's, if you call yourself just a particle vibration, all right, just call you a vibration. Imagine this dot
Right.
on my screen going up and down across the screen, and it just keeps going like this. And you're wondering why it's like an up and down, because two-dimensionally it's up and down, but actually in three-dimension it's a spiral. It looks like an ease of the up and an ease of a down, but it's actually a spiral in 3 dimensions. So that up and down is, you're looking at the perfect side angle of that vibration going up and down. But if you look at it in 3 dimension, it's doing a little wobble, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got a little wobble like a coil. So vibration's actually a coil, to be clear. This is how I see vibration. It's the turntable floating up into space. Okay, it's
Okay.
So when you basically get to a point where that wobble comes around at a certain point, I just say 10% of the way down. It's come down to 10% of the way down to meeting the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
Which you have to decide, being that particle is a single moment captured of the vibration. It's a one dimension. It has no distance or time. In 2 dimensions, you have distance. So you have the vibration going up and down, up and down, up and down, right? And you can gauge the time that occurs.
Right.
But in 1 dimension, there's no time. We'll explain later. 3rd dimension, you get, that's actually, it looks like a spring. Looks like a spring. 4th dimension, you've got another level of looking at it, which is an ascended version of time. You've got spreading out. So 4th dimension isn't a spring anymore. It actually becomes like fireworks, right? So depending on what it is, it goes in so many directions at once, it's actually creating something new. So that's how vibration works when you get to a certain point. Okay? Depending on the observer, that point is different for each person. So speed of light is actually different between the two of you, between you and me. The speed of light is not a constant between us.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds odd, right? But the truth is, we're more or less observant of only a certain range. Now,
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at any other thing that we would have a perspective on, and we could both be looking at the same car crash and have totally different perspectives.
up until the point where somebody's actually seen a ghost rise from the crash.
Right.
Being able to be that sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the product of vibrations, everything's a vibration. We won't even get into that.
Right.
We're on the 10th class about vibration here. We need to talk about first class introductory stuff. In the scheme of a human experience as an individual as a vibration, and you're just a dot in 1 dimension, you're going somewhere in 2 dimensions, right? 3 dimensions, I can actually figure out when you're going to get there based on the tension in the spring when it was made and how it was, how it was put together. So by design, you see the end point. You see where it's not worth measuring this anymore, back and forth. And I do want to keep measuring it more and more. So what this is there's actually, when you go from 3rd to beyond, you get the explosion, which is like, when a tree comes out and you got an explosion of branches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're exploding into that way of thinking and seeing things. Like, I'm seeing things I shouldn't be seeing. According to everybody else living their life, I'm the one that's the odd one out, okay? And I know this because
Right.
I didn't always see energy. I just had
But
to
but it's but you couldn't possibly see something that you shouldn't be seeing. The point
correct.
is you're seeing
Correct.
something different than what everybody else is
Well,
aware
I
of.
can, and the truth is because I came from the place where I could see it normally, I could
Hmm.
ignore the overlay of energies.
Right.
And most of the time, the energies there, I found out, I choose what they are. I can choose
Hmm.
blue now means red. And it goes and figures it all out, and everything gets totally multicolored, and it's totally screwed up. It's like taking, it's like a super hippie, shirt kind of looking thing. It's like,
Yes.
red's now what, and yellow's what, blue, wait, in this conditions, blue is good, and forget it. Choose the original design. Red is not blue, and green is not yellow. Don't screw with the spectrum.
Hmm.
Just leave it consistent, so otherwise you won't even know what kind of energy you're looking at. So I said, fine, whatever the color is for this, just let it be that. I'm not going to say if I want it to be that. I did that and I screwed it up. It was really funny. I thought I was like, am I getting high? Am I hallucinating? Like, thanks, everything. The world's going to hell if the energy fields are doing this. It's like, don't do that. Turned out like made all the vibrations look like tie-dye energy. It was funny, but whatever. Got beyond that. I said, go back to predictable
Yes,
established
a little.
vibrational representation.
You need a little stability
Correct.
while you're doing this. Yes.
Right. And in my way of looking at it, I was in that explosion moment of
Hmm.
observation. I've got a choice here. How am I going to explore looking at auras? How am I going to explore
Right.
looking at energy? It's like I need to still like intellectualize it to some degree, right? Because I
Hmm.
saw white. It was just white, 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 white. It was just a white line. It's just like taking like a little white line and like highlighting the lighting around your frame and things like that. That's what it was. If anybody's heard of my trip to Shasta, I went to Shasta and boom, I got color TV. I got all sorts of amazing channels and stuff I can look into now, right? It's not just color
Hmm.
TV. It's like, you know, past channel 13. So I'd go to channel 14. I said, let's just see, what we have
Yeah. Of
here.
course. Of
I'm
course.
like, dipping my toe in the world of crystals. Touch a crystal, and I'm just download. This is a person. You just poked me, buddy. What's up? What do you want to know? I'm ready to talk. I'll tell you what I was doing last. Who I meet yesterday? Who picked me up today? Who cleaned me? I love that person. It just keeps going. I was like, whoa, 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 let go. Yeah, well, Crystal's got a hell of a lot to say.
Uh-huh.
I was like, yo, what the hell is going on? This is a prank call. Who's calling me? Like, what the hell? So I said, oh, geez, that's a bit too intense. But everyone's around me, is looking around at me. Julien, what did you get out of the crystal? I'm like, it was annoying. It was really annoying. Like, what do you mean? It's like, it was talking so fast. And it just give me all these thoughts, and a lot of them are really inane and lame and childish, like a 3-year-old's interest or like a 12-year-old's interest in things. And they're like, that's not what we were expecting you to say. I said, well, I don't know what to say. This crystal thinks you're like some sort of slave master. It's weird. Like, like the bullwhip and, cracking the whip at the crystal. This is like what it thinks of you. Did you know that? It's like, oh, I do really like, I am kind of like, you'll do this and you'll do this, Crystal, and you do this, and like, never realized to say thank you, So I do come off
Right.
like that. And so I was just like, oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense, Julian. I believe you now. I believe you are having that. You're not going crazy. Right? So, and she really loved Crystal. So she vouched for me that I wasn't, whatever I was doing wasn't completely losing my mind. However, I said,
Mhm.
everybody wants me to touch their crystals now. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to listen to tons of voices in my head kind of thing. Can't do that. So I said, nah, we're gonna chop you down to size. I want real general ideas, I don't want you to just overload me. Pleiadians are the same thing.
Right.
They crippled my body in joy. If you remember hearing about that. So, if you remember, Andrew Bartzis joined me in,
Right.
well, I joined him. I don't know which way it went, but we were in Shasta at the time,
It's a
and
partnering.
and it was really beautiful. There was a conference that he was a part of hosting and stuff, and I got to there and meet lots of wonderful people. Found some people that came just to meet me because they knew about me. I didn't even know I was being presented. I guess somebody must have said something on the radio or something like that. But it was this place where I was, really excited to work with Andrew and talk with him and stuff. And he was, honestly giving me his time. And he was opening up my world really quickly. I mean, in another sense of the word. And I knew that this was coming. So when he started talking about some galactic history stuff, like it was like being recorded and everybody was sort of like recording it, and it was like recording Andrew and the interviewer Lance White, and they would talk about these questions and stuff, and everybody would be sort of watching like outside a camera shot, and I had gotten into a very high place earlier that day, and the Pleiadians really loved Andrew Bartzis. You have no idea. And so they were getting excited. They're all like, "We're gonna see Andrew Bartzis. We're gonna see Andrew Bartzis." Like, oh my God, this guy's so great. And they're just like lighting up inside me. I'm like, oh, this is so beautiful. I'm gonna get to show you guys Andrew Bartzis, and in his element. Like on camera, right? Like behind the scenes, sneak peek Pleiadians. You got a shot in the studio to see Andrew Bartzis talk on the galactic history of the Earth and the Akashic history of the Earth.
Right.
Yeah, at least from his experience, right? They were, super tickled, and I'd become more sensitive of them, but they couldn't help it. Imagine on their end, like a living room that has like a couple couches, and that's how they watch me. Okay, it's like two ends, like two L-shaped, couches, side by side. Normally people only have one L shape on their living room, but this is like, think of two of them. That's about how many people get in front of the television screen. Okay?
Right. So it's like a 70s pit group there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually sunk in. It's like an oval that's cut out at a step and an upper step and then another step.
And
right?
they do fondue and.
I don't know. I'll have to check in on that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got this couch. It's got a television, and this is when they watch in a group, right? When they're watching me on their own computer, then it's just on their terminal or something like that. When we're watching a group, that's where they'll hang out, so they could all sort of chat about what they're seeing and following and stuff. And that was it. Up to about 8 Pleiadians at a time was what I got on their ship. That was it. There was no watching me just by myself. It was 8 people or whoever happened to be walking by at the time and wanted to catch the Truman Show. That was Julien Wells, right?
There you go.
So they basically changed their relationship with me by my association with getting to connect with Andrew, and especially the fact that he was doing what they had to catch in other ways, because Andrew doesn't let anything remotely watch him at all. He's completely he has a super bubble, right? It takes a lot out of him to be his own energy source, so that's why he's got his skin thing, right? Because he's basically denying other energies that could also be good, that benefit him, like nice spirits and things like this.
Sure.
But he wants to be so neutral, he has to basically cut out all external influence, and because he cuts out all external influence, he has the skin issue that gets really dark, psoriasis, I think it's called, right?
Okay, so is this like the starting point of this vibrational talk
Yes.
that you were getting the dreams about?
I'm talking about it right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I already have been. So I've been dreaming about all this information.
Right.
So either way, right, to get back on subject, Andrew Barzis made the Pleiadians, they all crowded into that room, a couple hundred, trying to fit into that little lounge room to watch.
Uh-huh.
And I was the couch. Like, they were, like, rubbing me, like, oh, you're so awesome, Julie, you're so awesome, oh, we love you. Like a puppy pile. Like, oh, my God, we love you. Oh, this is all freaking awesome. I was twitching. I was, like on some sort of crazy sugar high, right? I was like, oh, and everybody's like, oh, something's going on with Julien. And I was trying to explain it, like, this is what happened, and this is what happened, because I had to like slow down my thoughts enough to say something, right? I was buzzing like that. I had to like, if I just go, they won't hear me. They're just like, blah, 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 blah. That's what they'll hear. So you're like, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happens. It's like chunk it out because I was super high on energy.
Mm-hmm.
Super love vibe, basically. Beyond sustainable limits, actually. But in that place, I could have flown. I'm pretty sure I could have just gotten up and Supermaned out of there. But before it got to the point of doing some, pain, perhaps for my long term, Andrew knew exactly what to do, and he did like the Spock, right? Like, boonk, and I just sort of rolled over, and it all stopped.
Uh-huh.
And I, passed out for like 15 minutes or something like that. And this is after the video had gone, and they were reviewing the video. They were still flipping out and everything, watching it a second pass on the laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And that all happened. So anyways, I got a dose that was way beyond sustainable limits. It started early. It got to a point where I said, that's it. I'm going to cut down on the extremities of my experience. Like, I'm going to stop seeing so much. I'm going to basically ask it to not be so dense. Like, I can ask for it again, but I got to do focus. I got to focus there for 30 seconds, and then the energy is very bright. It's almost like overexposure with a camera. You just leave it more exposed, and then it gets really bright. But the energy doesn't move as quickly as it when I was high like that, the energy was much more dynamic. I could see all the little details. I just didn't see a blur like you're seeing with my hands right now. I was spinning them back and forth. It wasn't like a blur. It was much more obvious, right? So I could actually see at a really high frequency. I can see my fingers moving when I was doing that. So it was, all I got to do is focus so that I can get to that point again, which is the key to the vibration, which is how do I take something that is so amazing with so much potential, how do I turn that vibration into the explosion of choices and ways to look? The explosion of it. Like all the things that happened to me on Shasta, I still had to do things in order, but I tried to soak up everything that was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to soak up everything. Learned about crystals, touched crystals, found organite. Oh, my organite's so awesome. Learned about Atlantis, saw an Atlantis, met a stone that was in Atlantis, and amazing stuff, right? Completely out of this world. And then I said, basically the question to me is, what out of all that are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep going? Are you going to keep rocketing off and that exploring, new things after another, like instant healing, and talking to spirits? Oh my God, that was now really happening.
Mm-hmm.
Julien, are you going to do all that stuff regularly? Is that everything you want to do in your life and your world? And I thought about it. I said, well, I like a lot of that stuff. It's very exciting, but I think it's probably exciting because it was new. But I don't think it would be exciting after a time. Like, I could see that it'll get to be not a big deal. I saw that. I saw a couple things. I said, yeah, I could see that it's all right. I'll keep it in there. So they didn't say no. They didn't say just, Spock gripped Julien and he loses all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was experimenting with energy already before that. And I said, I want more energy. I want to see this. I want to feel this more energy. Blah, blah, blah. I asked for it. Well, I got it. Like,
you got
all of a sudden, a matter of days. Asked for it. You know, it was almost, I don't know how many, what was it? 6 months. 6 months. Taste of true power. And then Shasta shows up, and whoa, now whole nother level. Explosion. So there's explosion, and then 6 months later, an explosion. And the explosions kept happening. It's like moving up octaves on the piano or the
But
music.
is that where we are individually moving through this transition is
Mm-hmm.
to the explosion,
The
or are
explosion
we
that are massive epiphanies where your life is just changing so quickly.
okay? What are the dreams telling you about that? I mean,
But
how's this?
the point is you're supposed to actually go in the direction of the explosion.
Okay.
Okay? So when you sense, I feel like things are about to blow. Oh my God. It's like, what are you holding on to, man? Just freaking go. Just go right into that explosion. No fear. No fear at all. The fear's keeping you from having your explosion. Oh man, stuff's about to go, man. And you get to that point, you're like, what are you waiting for? Go. It is about to happen. It is. If I could tell you it's happening, happen. Boom. And this guy, explodes and like, oh my God. He goes off and becomes super philosophical and everything. And I'm like, oh, excellent. I can't even follow what you're saying. There's no way I can
Hmm.
follow what you're saying. Great. Boom. That's fine. I helped you ascend and I got to watch that by giving and knocking off your last fears, your last whatever.
Right.
In some cases you're given permission. Just push me. Just get it over with. Get me in there. It could look like suicide. Help me suicide. I am so desperate to feel the light again. I'm too far out. I should be feeling light every day. So, kill me. Oh, thank God. That was a really good relief. I go back to
So,
being light again.
so is this, for example, with the amazing number of musical artists we've lost this year, is that what's happening there?
Absolutely.
With the Princes
Yep,
and the David
absolutely.
Bowies of the world
Yes.
and
I'm surprised
Glenn
Oprah
Frey.
hasn't died. In fact, it says something about her character.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm just kidding. See, the thing is, they left us. They left us.
Right.
Okay? They chose better. We're only going to understand it in our way. But they left us because we couldn't follow them the way they were thinking. We couldn't
Hmm.
follow them. They're too high. John Lennon was too high. We couldn't follow them where they were thinking. So they had to die. We attracted their death. John Lennon's going to keep doing that, man. Somebody's going to shoot him. He's saying some beautiful stuff. Someone's going to get him for doing that.
Aha.
We decided we killed him in a way. We attracted what we expect with somebody who's flying too high. And then when it was so much so, clip, John Lennon leaves our life. He went higher than we did. His
Hmm.
real self. He changed directory. He's being pulled into being knocked off. He gets knocked off, but really that's his explosion. He had an explosion. He can't stay here any longer. That very day was the same day he ascended. And you say,
Hmm.
oh, he's an angel. Hey, did you know angel's like an actual person? Like, I am an angel because I've helped out lower vibrations in their complex nature. That's just what angel. It's like, hey, you help out those that you just help
Hmm.
out. If
Right.
you're helping the lower ascend, that's an angel. That by definition, a lot of rules. Don't get me wrong, but that's the basic premise of it. So he did become an people who can see his spirit and all this other thing. Yes, you're seeing an echo of his reality still merged here.
Specifically into, for example, Prince
Okay.
that left us last week.
Okay.
But one of the things that I've seen reported in several